following message is being transmitted at the request of the Boundless PodTrap movie review and the guys of the BPT. What you are about to hear contains spoilers to movies. If you don't want to hear these spoilers, please disengage your listening device at this time. If you can't handle those with a possible differing view on a movie, you may also want to disengage your listening device at this time. Stay tuned for a movie review that only the guys at the Boundless PodTrap can give you.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Well, hello, everybody. You're listening to the BPT Movie Review, Episode 5. I'm joined, as always, with Justin Mulani.
Mulani?
Mulani.
Why do you say Mulani?
It's the cow version of me.
Milani.
Justin.
Milani.
Milani.
You gotta say it with your hands or else I can't hear you.
And
Say it with your hands.
Mulani.
Why are you saying Mulani? It's Milani.
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 No,
Capiche?
Milani.
Capiche?
Oh, and Milani.
He is Lonnie.
Milani.
Milani.
So you say Justin, me, and Lonnie. So it's all me.
Oh, you're stupid. Get out.
Okay, bye.
Fired
All right.
from that podcast.
Well,
Episode 5 now.
boys, yeah.
4 now. 5?
This is 5.
Shit.
Time just flies. We started this like 2.5 months ago somehow.
Doesn't
already.
even feel like it.
We were just talking about Pulp Fiction, and now here we are tonight talking about Naughty Nurses.
Volume 3.
I've watched that movie 13 times in the last couple days.
I've
just
watched
for
the
this
first
review.
3 minutes of Naughty Nurses 15 times this week.
That's all you need.
That's
What are we talking about tonight?
we are actually talking about. This is my pick tonight. A movie that had big effect on me the first time I watched it, not knowing what to expect with it. But we are going to be we are going to be reviewing the 2006. That was it.
Gong, gong, gong.
I thought it was going to be something so cool, but let's try it again. We are watching the 2006 movie Alpha Dog.
Man, episode 5, we're really getting the budget
Very
going.
We are, man. I don't even know what to expect with that. But yeah, Alpha Dog, which is a movie written and directed by Nick Cassavetes. He also did John Q, The Notebook, which I think are compared to. I haven't seen The Notebook all the way through, but
It's beautiful.
It's quite different. I'm assuming from what
Nothing happens
Alpha
at the
Dog
end.
is, but
I was going to say, it's just a movie about a guy who likes to doodle in a notebook.
Yeah, and he goes to sleep at the end.
It's pretty disappointing.
but everybody talks about it. Everybody references it. And I don't know.
I think they're just talking about, what's his name?
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, this movie, Alpha Dog, it's got such a big all-star cast, and this is just a small list of what I'm reading off. It has Bruce Willis, Justin Timberlake, Emil Hirsch, Sean Hattasey, Ben Foster, Anton Yelchin, Sharon Stone, Harry Dean Stanton, Olivia Wilde, just to name a few.
You left out the most important person in the movie, Bernadette Perez.
Oh,
Whoops.
my fault.
Whoopsies.
But yeah, this movie, such an impactful movie, and it's been a few years since I last watched it.
Same.
And when I watched it again, man, from start to finish, that movie, I don't want to say it's anxiety, but it kind of is anxiety to me. And just, you have to keep in mind too that this movie is just about young kids. And it's not adults, but we'll get into that here. Before we get into that, I'll only read you the synopsis here. Drug-dealing delinquent Johnny Truelove lives the high life in L.A., partying with his peers and getting a steady dope supply from his dad, Sonny. However, when a dangerous customer refuses to pay, Johnny and right-hand man Frankie kidnap the junkie's younger brother, intending to only keep the kid hidden and happy until they get the cash. These would-be gangsters find themselves in a lot of trouble when the police get involved. So let's go around the table here. we'll do our thing where we give the review, I guess, our rating, I guess, for it. Again, it's for new time listeners. 1 means it was a terrible movie. 5 means it was a good movie. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't terrible. And 10 means it was outrageously amazing. So we're going to go with Justin. What are you giving Alpha Dog?
I guess I kind of did lie. I did watch this like a month or 2 ago, but since then, I haven't seen it since it came out. And I remember, again, associating Justin Timberlake, kind of going off of our last week's podcast about how I kind of hated him back then. And it's like, it was just annoying to see him everywhere. All the Kids Bop magazines. It's like, that's not why I'm buying Kids Bop magazines. But
It's all about that.
Oh,
I was,
Hillary
because
Duff.
you have daughters.
I was of that age as well. So, okay. But yeah, like I gave it a chance back then. I remember I did like it for what it was, but it wasn't something that kind of I put it up there. But now actually giving it the respect that it deserves this so many years removed, knowing that it is based on a true story, embellished here and there, but for the most part, it sticks to what it's supposed to be. I have to give it an 8.5. We're going to do the 0.5. 8.5 stars.
So, as I said, this movie, the first time I watched it, didn't know what to expect. I just saw the poster for it, just grabbed my attention, and it was just seeing the different actors in it. I'm like, wow, all these actors are in this one movie. And I think it was the fact that Bruce Willis was in the cover and Justin Timberlake. I'm like, how are those two in a movie together? Watched it, not knowing anything really about the inspiration behind it, the truish events. But I watched it, and this is like one of the only few movies that the ending made me sick to my stomach. It turned my stomach. And for a movie to touch me in that way, it's incredible. And watching it again, it took me back, and I think it gets better every time I watch it. There's no lagging in this movie. So I am going to give it an 8.5 as well. I was going to give it a 9, but there are a few things I don't like about it. So 8.5.
Jesus. Yeah, talking about the cast in this film, some of the names we didn't mention, Sharon Stone.
I said Sharon Stone.
Oh, did you say Sharon Stone?
Yes.
I missed that. I wasn't paying attention. Ben Foster.
I said him.
David Thornton. Olivia Wilde.
Said her.
Amber Heard. Amanda Seinfeld. All these famous people, and they couldn't make a decent movie. I know you guys really appreciate this movie, but I'm really gonna break the curve on this one. I gave it a 0.25 out of 10. Like, I thought this movie was dog shit.
No, it's Alpha Dog. That's what it was.
That's harsh.
And the
You said
only
0.25?
0.25, yeah.
Jeez,
And the
a
only
quarter?
reason this movie got a 0.25 out of it was 2 parts. One, like I said, it had Bernadette Perez in it. And 2, that last little scene with Frankie in it. That was the only decent acting in that whole movie. I thought the rest of it was amateurish. I didn't like it at all.
See, and that's one of the points I was going to bring up, is that I think this acting, it was real. It felt real. Like, it wasn't a scripted movie. Like, I feel like all the dialogue and the situations, that's how people talk in real life.
These are the kids I was hanging out with, like, always having to refuse. Like, I'm not into that. I'm not in. No.
And I mean, like, when they're getting high majority of the movie, but when they're telling the one guy to suck his dick, you'd suck his dick if you, and how loud and obnoxious they are. I've been at a lot of parties where people are that loud and obnoxious, and that's like, that's fucking real. Yeah. And I'm not shitting on your opinion at all. No. Everybody is entitled to their opinion.
We're going to shit on your opinion for the rest of this.
Before we get into that, this is, as Justin said, it's based off of a true story about Nick Cassavetes. His daughters went to school with a kid that was killed because of his brother's debt to a drug lord person or whatever. And so it touched home with him, very close to home. And he had the idea to make the movie, and he actually, went to the courts and the jails, and he got like the files and everything. And he actually got to interview family members of the victims and stuff. And he said that the opening scene with like Bruce Willis and Sharon Stone, and where they're interviewing him, he's like, those are the questions I had to ask. And
they did set the story for what to prepare for. Mm-hmm. And I think for most viewers, that opening scene is going to go lost on most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was about Jesse James Hollywood. And then Ben Markowitz, he was owed
The
money
actual
to him, and they actually kidnapped his brother, Nicholas Markowitz, and they ended up killing him because, again, it's one of those things where you look at the cast, and I think most movies that, like, these kids aren't supposed to be in high school. I think they're college age.
They're about 16 to 20 years old, at
Yeah.
least what it's supposed to
appear.
appear.
And I will say this is more believable than a lot of movies out there where the cast is supposed to be high school young kids, and
Right.
like in Greece, they look like they're in their 30s.
30-year-old high
Rizzo
schoolers,
looks
yeah.
like she's in her 60s.
Yeah, she's already had menopause.
Yeah,
at the age.
there's no way I believed she was pregnant because she's too old to have a baby.
My
but,
granddaughter's pregnant.
But that's the one thing I think that some people lose in this is that these are just young kids. And one of the reasons I gave it an 8.5 is, like, I love Emil Hirsch. I think he did what he was supposed to with the part, but I just don't believe that he has what's the word I'm looking for? I don't feel that he would be somebody
in a
that
position.
Yeah, he wouldn't have like, I know he was kind of living off of his father.
Yeah. His
Sonny.
dad seemed to be more made, and the reason why, like, Alpha Dog is pretty much like the leader of the pack, and Johnny was supposed to be like the leader due to pretty much his financial and supply type of chain. So he had the abilities to give, and that's what all his friends were there for. They're mooching off of him. So they pay him, he pays his dad. They have a successful business. You know, if they cut out the middleman, they would have to go straight to his dad, but that wouldn't work like that because from the parents' perspective, it seemed like, other than Zach's mom, Sonny, True Love, was like the only parent who actually kind of gave a fuck what his kid was doing.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Right.
But I just, like, with Emil, like, granted, obviously the whole point of this is, like, he's scared, and that's why he's making these bad calls, and
for sure.
in the end,
He's the biggest pussy out of everybody here.
He is, but it's just like the people that surround him. It's like, I don't understand why they're so threatened and intimidated by him. I don't feel that
he pays them, I guess. Like TKO, Frankie, I mean, like, they get their main support, it seems like, from him. Although Frankie, in this story, I don't know how close it was because he could have started his own since he grew his herbs.
Right.
Or at least his dad did.
So Lonnie, explain a little bit more of, like, why you gave this a 0.25. Our lowest score so far.
Lowest score ever.
Not even a single point.
So in 2001, there was a movie came out called Bully. It was also a based on true story movie. Really exactly the same premise with a bunch of basically unknown cast. Like, the only person who really did something to come out of that was Bijou Phillips. Everybody else out of that had a little minor successes, but basically Bijou Phillips was the only one who had a name after that. And the only reason she really had a name after that is because she did a Playboy spread. And that movie... Bijou. And that movie was darker. Like, it still had that same childish dialogue, I'll say, and not childish in the terms of, like, immature dialogue.
Not elementary,
but just like how kids would talk, how teens
pushing
would
the
talk,
edge
how
just to
20s would
push
talk.
the edge.
Right.
Yeah.
But yet the story was more gripping to me. So when I watched this movie, my mind was more transported to the movie Bully. And that's what I expected. I expected those same twists and turns. So when I got this, and I can't even say a subpar movie.
Didn't the kid kill himself?
No, they were killed by the cops in that one.
Oh.
See,
And
I've
then the
never
other
seen
ones with
Bully,
the-
so I
wow.
can't even.
In Alpha Dogs, the actors who are getting their start, and the good thing about this movie, I will say, is it did give a lot of actors that mainstream appeal. Because if you think about Amanda Seinfeld's Seinfried's or whatever. Seyfried's. This was only her fourth main movie, and this was probably her biggest role up to date. Same thing with Olivia Wilde. It was her fourth movie, and it was her biggest movie to date. Same thing with Amanda Heard. It was her fifth movie, but her biggest movie to date.
She was I don't know about from the time,
From when the movie came out. Yeah. So
with her, I can't see her the same. Like, she was trying to be all sexy and seductive in the pool, and it's like all I could see is a piece of shit in the bed. I can't see you the same. I just think of the shit you left in a Johnny Depp's bed.
Right. So, I mean, like, for people like that, like, it got their start. So you don't really expect them to be great actors and actresses. So you don't expect them to have that great delivery. But when you think of the people like Sharon Stone, Bruce Willis, Emile Hirsch, like people who are well-known actors, and the ones who aren't phoning it in are such overacting. It took me out of the moment. And then, like, for Emile Hirsch, when he was acting, he just seemed so blasé and so, like, non-committed to his role. And I know it might have been his character, but he was just so, I don't give a shit. Even when he was on the run, he was just like, meh. And, like, the sex scene he was in at the end, it was just, like, not showing interest in a sex scene. I get it. Like, that's the role. There was no difference between his not paying attention to a sex scene and him being completely riled up because of the fact of having to kill somebody. There was no difference. Like, he had one gear, and that was his gear.
I mean, I attribute that sex scene or would-be sex scene to because he was dealing with a lot of the stress, and it kind of gives him a little bit of impotence.
I was just using those for examples. Like, that was his demeanor in the whole entire movie.
So you're saying his sex scene was great acting, but it was the same acting for everything else.
I was just using those as examples. It was the same.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But
Justin Timberlake's acting as well. Like, it's early in their careers. Yes, they're amazing actors now. All those people are great actors, but it was early in their careers. They haven't developed yet. So,
I don't necessarily know what you were expecting of them. Like, for me, I kind of like fall in line with Jeremy. Like, I thought they were on par for kids who are entitled, living in the suburban California lifestyle. Like, it seemed kind of on par. Like, they were trying to mainly placate to each other, trying to, that's the way I saw it.
I mean, I feel like I said, I think everything was real with that. It felt real. It didn't feel like a movie. I mean, Emile Hirsch was hit or miss. I will give you that. But I think that's also part of the character. And I know I was watching in preparation for this, there was a YouTube video where Justin Timberlake and Emile Hirsch interview each other, and it's called Unscripted.
Yeah, I see that.
And Emile was saying about, like, the very first scene they shot was when they're in the bedroom, when Emile brings up the point to Justin Timberlake's character is like, if I gave you $2,500 to kill the kid, would you do it or whatever? And he said that was the first thing. And there was a part where the cameras and everything was there, and it's like he just was looking at the cameras and stuff and the crew, and Justin Timberlake's like passing him the joint, and I think this is like his first like real big role.
Right. It was real to him at that time. Like, when you're under the pressure, trying to get in that mind frame, that actor's mind frame, I thought something like that. Like, I didn't notice it because I was already, my heartstrings were on the kid still. Mm-hmm. It's like, and they might have overplayed a lot of the almost home free type of thing. Like, you're almost there. Yeah. And I think you get so far so they can, build your hopes up and then tear them down.
One thing I feel like this is like kind of bringing all the negatives. The girls, how there's like, oh, you were kidnapped or whatever. And it's like that turned them on. And how he's like this 15-year-old boy and he's having a threesome and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't feel like that would really happen. Like, I feel like that was kind of...
It didn't really happen.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, that's one part of the movie where I didn't feel like that would really happen.
Right? Yeah. No, I mean, like, in the actual story, like, it didn't happen.
Right.
To Nick.
I know that, but that's why I'm saying, like, they could have probably left that. Like, it could have just been him and that one girl.
I think he was just trying to fulfill a certain, like, life achievement. Like, wow, like, his life is totally contrasted from what it used to be, having homework parties and stuff with his mom and always having to check in and be goody. Now he's living the life that he admires his brother, and he wants to be like his brother, and he's hanging out with his brother's friends, or used to be friends, because he just kind of made enemies, and they're actually treating him how he kind of would like to be treated, and he's one of the boys. And
I'm interested. So you weren't a huge fan of Emile Hirsch and Justin Timberlake's acting, but Ben Foster, don't you have to give him some props? That guy played the role of a tweaker and a fucking psycho.
He acted his ass off. I will give him that.
The part where Sharon Stone slaps the shit out of him and just like that look on his face.
She's grabbing her. She's grabbing his face. Yeah, I think he was one of the saving factors in this movie for me.
Except for the Chinese connection scene.
there was a lot of different layers to his character. Yeah, he was one of he was really the only character in this movie that had redeeming factors, and that
especially his shit face.
And there was a lot of people in that movie that they were unlikable to me. Like there was a lot of people who they didn't have worth for me in this movie, and I'm not thinking of it from an outside perspective like you guys are. And that was when we started this podcast. My role was just to watch it as someone who watches movies and enjoys movies, and like dive into the characters. Why do I like this person? Why do I don't like this person? And a lot of the people in this movie, they weren't likable. Why would I like?
They're not supposed to be.
Yeah, I feel like that's the point.
Well, then, like everybody in this movie, towards the end of it, why would I even give a shit about anybody in this cast? Like when they all went to jail, it was fine. Okay.
It's like the only person I really cared for is like, man, like Frankie did what he can. He gave him so many outs. Like, even though he was a part of it and he got, how much was it? Like 10, 20 years or so.
Right.
Was it even a life?
He got life sentence.
Yeah.
Well, the way Justin Timberlake portrayed it, it's like, fuck, man. Like, you wanted him to at least go free. Like, he was one of the main ones being cool with him.
Right.
And 911 dude who was kind of weird because he was all part of the group out of the jump. Like, True Love didn't even know the kid until, but then he's in like almost every scene afterwards.
I will say that last scene where they walk him up to the thing, Justin Timberlake, his acting, I mean, that I think is what really made my gut.
That whole scene there, the walking up with Zach crying, I thought that was the best acting in the whole entire movie. Like that was raw emotion, and that I can see. It was real. Like you could tell that was something that they worked hard on. I watched a really shitty copy of it, so it really was distorted, but just the acting in that, like with Zach's raw emotion and confusion and fear.
Well, yeah, the fact that he trusted.
Right.
So like, I'm going to put tape on your wrist now, okay? I'm going to have to tape you up. Okay. He's like, I'm going to have to...
I would never hurt you.
Yeah. And then when he's just like, Justin Timberlake's crying when he's like, I'm going to have to tape your mouth now, okay? And it's like, man, like, and just because you put yourself in Zach's shoes.
Absolutely, yeah.
How fucking scared would you be? But, I mean, this guy's been cool with you this whole time, and it's like, what else is it going to be? Right. They're taping you up. There's a fucking hole dug for you. The guy is fucking
the guy's got a gun. He's already shoved it at you. Know what's gonna happen.
But he's a black belt.
But me as a viewer, the first time I watched that, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, Justin Timberlake is gonna save the day,
right?
Because I knew nothing about the real story or anything like that. And a lot of times when it's based off of a true story, if I don't know the story, I'm not gonna look into it because it ruins the movie for you.
Right.
But when they hit him with the shovel, I'm like, oh God. And then the guy just pumps him full of bullets. That right there, I was shocked. I was like, what the fuck? Right. A fucking 15-year-old was just murdered. This doesn't happen in movies.
Right. And I was able, and like I said, I was watching a shitty version of it.
Apparently. You give it a 0.25.
I was watching a really shitty version where it actually played
where
it played all the way
Wait,
through.
What?
But it clearly looked CG to me. The blood looked CG.
Well, that whole scene looked CG.
The gunfire CG.
Just the background.
The background was super CG. So a super great emotional moment was ruined by a shitty CG moment. But it didn't take me out of the moment. That was, in my eyes, that was the best acting in the whole entire movie because it felt authentic. That was the only authentic feeling I felt in the movie. And when you guys were talking about how it felt real the way they were talking, I just didn't see it. From someone who kind of grew up in that type of environment, not with those people, but with people very similar to those people, it struck a chord in the sense that those people do exist, but not to that extreme in my eyes. So it was almost too dialed up. It almost seemed the parody-esque of that people.
I can almost see that, but then again, I mean, I can put actual names of people I knew to faces or to these characters. It's like, for me, it brought me back to my high school times.
Right. Well, keep in mind, I went to a high school of 76 people.
And none of them were drug dealers.
None of them were.
I went to a high school of 76 graduates a year.
I went to class of 76 drug dealers.
I went to a school where we were packed sardines. There were like thousands of kids there.
That's not
Freaking hated it.
good social distancing.
Yeah.
One of the things that, like, you were kind of mentioning how, and I think a lot of people probably don't like it because of the, well, it is like toxic masculinity. Like, they're trying way too hard. And in these certain circles, like, guys do try to tease each other. Like, they test each other's limits. It's kind of like little shit tests. And it's entirely natural in most all these circles, especially like the meatheads. They often question each other's physical strength, and nerds would often punch at each other's intelligence. And this isn't strictly a guy thing, but it's highly common and trait amongst most guy circles at whatever spectrum they fall. And also in like most all mammals, at least. But when someone like appears lacking in certain things, kind of how like the Elvis character, like he owed Johnny Truelove some money and he was trying to repay all his debts, but he was the one that everybody was kind of making fun of. And they get made fun of or they get shamed. And usually in these little circles, they test to see if you have what it takes. And if you don't, you risk being outcasted. So normally you would kind of like join a new circle or try to test what you got, see if you can overcome these little struggles. I guess it's kind of in a way of like testing your mental fortitude. If you do rise to the occasion, you receive that respect. And that's what Elvis was trying to receive. But I think the way that they were treating, not necessarily the way they were treating him, but the way he was approaching certain things, he went corrupt fast. He was the only one who was kind of more geared towards what he was seeing in these music videos. He was like, he wanted that gangster life. And these other kids, they were just trying to make a little bit of money and live a life. Yeah, Elvis, there's kids like that. There's people who take it so far that it's...
absolutely. They just want to be hood rats, yeah.
And it's more for, if anything, status. And I don't know, it's just it's an illusion.
False bravado, yeah.
I kind of like at the end, I mean, because Elvis is the one that's getting made fun of pretty much the whole movie. He's the one that pulls the trigger at the end. And then I like when they're showing him in that state of panic. Yeah. When the police...
The shit got real. You can hold, Yeah,
like this, that's, to me, for the viewer, it's kind of like a sense of, I don't know, like the payoff. Like, all right, this guy's getting what he gets. And especially when the cop's like, get the fuck on the ground, I'm going to blow your fucking head off. It's like, yes, you should just blow this guy's fucking head off. Just kill a 15-year-old.
Shoot him in the legs.
But, looking at this movie from like a writer-director standpoint, there's really not much to it because cinematography isn't spectacular. It's a regular movie to me. And I mean, he's going based off of events that kind of happen and stuff. And again, that's not faulting. I think it's a great movie, but I really was trying to pick some things up that would just be like extraordinary from a filmmaker's point of view. But there really isn't anything there. I think the story itself, the movie itself is just, I think, good all around. I'm sorry. I mean, I know you don't like it, but and the thing is, I was going to ask you, do you think if you had not seen that movie Bully, would you have thought differently of this movie?
Not really, because to be 100% honest, I really didn't even like Bully. I just don't really care much for this genre of movie. Okay. I don't like dramas, and I don't really like action movies, so piling them together is really not my bag.
Okay. Well, I'm shocked. I thought you would have liked this movie more than Justin would have.
Yeah, I'm just not.
Is it the genre or is it the content?
I don't even know. I was going to watch this a second time. I ran out of time to watch it a second time because I kind of put it off to the last minute. We've just been so hectic with trying to buy a house and moving and everything. I ran out of time. I didn't give my time the appropriate time to watch it and digest it. But yeah, I don't know. Movies like this, I have difficulty processing just due to the fact it's, like I said, I try to put myself in the moment, put myself in the movie, and I despise this lifestyle so much.
Same.
It takes me out of that movie and out of that element, and I hate it. And then I find things to nitpick about it, and then I just instantly, it just spirals down into reasons why I don't like it.
I guess to write off of that, like, yeah, these are the people I would like judge back in the day. It's like, and probably even still today, it's like, man, so many options you can use things for a better, like they're not all like bad kids. They can apply themselves and be so much better than what they actually are. But like they want, again, that status of that alpha group, that alpha rising up. And it's like being sort of alpha, I understand, like, it's a great tool for intimidation, and that's pretty much all it is.
Right.
And they use that. But like for this movie itself, I think a lot of viewers probably did get turned off with the constant homophobic gay jokes and stuff. But in these sorts of circles, I mean, like, everybody makes jokes depending on the extent of it. Like, I mean, we joked with each other often, but we don't fall under this sort of like alpha group. I mean,
Absolutely not. If anyone's ever met me.
but like when they're like asserting their masculinity and they use like all these gay jokes and stuff, it's kind of like a common trope to take away somebody's masculinity, and that's kind of what they were trying to do with Elvis.
Right.
But yeah,
the opening scene alone,
Yeah.
they're working out. All of them are working out
with
The
their
only
nice, tight, young bodies glistening.
and the only one that really wasn't working out was Elvis. And then when
he
he
tried.
did, they picked him apart and started making fun of him. Like,
Yeah.
fucking if you clean up the dog shit, if you get done with it, doesn't they tell him like throw it out there again and pick it up again.
But yeah, no, with them just constantly calling him out on like the gayness or whatnot, it's like it was a good tool to pull his masculinity away. But especially with people who are homophobic or insecure about their sexuality. But if you notice, I thought it was kind of funny that they're messing with him about that. Like, but when Jake came to the house to try to collect and held Johnny under the water, and Elvis comes out and like he tries to separate. Well, he does what he can, but once they're finally separated, Elvis puts his hand on like Johnny's nipples or nipple, and he's like, "It's not even worth it," or whatever he said. Just holds him back. The way he does it is just like underpalmed.
So a thing I noticed about this movie, and it kind of made me giggle a little bit. Obviously, the name Mazursky, it's a name of my people.
It's kike.
Did you notice that Jake had an SS tattoo on the back of his neck?
I saw that.
What kind of Jew has an SS tattoo on him?
That's a good question.
Not a very good one.
Well, I was going to say, sometimes I watch a lot of like mistakes in movies. And when Ben Foster's character, Jake, goes to that party and starts beating up people, men, women, and stuff like that.
That's the one I picked apart.
Oh,
yeah.
dude, he
gets
jacked the fuck out of that one.
He gets a glass bottle shattered over his head, and he's bleeding profusely. And then all of a sudden, after he's done fighting everyone, he's standing there, his head, no blood, nothing. And he's like, tell him Jake Wazarski was here. Or whatever. It's like, how do you miss a fucking, like, that's a big mistake right there.
Yeah.
He had this blood running down the back of his head, and now all of a sudden it's not there.
It's like what I was mentioning earlier is like that was pretty much straight out of Chinese Connection. Bruce Lee comes into the dojo and just beats up all the Japanese people in their own dojo. I'm like, wow, you just made like a performance out of it.
But it was pretty harsh.
It was. And I give him skill because I didn't know he had that in him. And
yeah, the only thing why that came up was like in the beginning, like the home movies thing.
Yeah.
You see the trophies and you see them in a gi.
Yeah.
Like that's the only time that makes reference to this karate.
That's crazy. They started filming the movie that long ago when they were kids.
No, kind of. I mean, that also plays to because Jake knows that. I mean, obviously Zach knows a little bit of something too. They grew up together,
and he does. He beats the shit out of Justin Timberlake in the bathroom.
Well, I don't know if you want to say shit. He pushes him down a few times. But yeah, no, the fight scene, the chick who kind of approaches Jake first, like she has to walk to him, but from where they're having that conversation, she is only arm's width away. And then it shows her like approach him so he can deck her. And then all these other people are taking their turn, one by one.
Every movie.
Yeah. And he just like, dragon seeks path, dragon whips tail. Like he's going at it.
I don't know if you guys noticed this, and I did, and it made me really happy. Angela's dad, who's at the house waiting for them when they get back, it's a fucking random Alan Thicke cameo.
Yeah, he's in there.
Yeah.
For like all of
I was
3
like,
or
what
4
the hell?
seconds.
And he probably made a lot of money
Yeah,
just to do that.
Alan fucking Thicke and his random
I
ass
forgot about that. Yeah.
cameo.
There was
Pops up, Angela.
at the 44-minute mark when Jake comes into the house to see what's all going on, and people are there trying to figure out where Zach is. You can hear, I believe it's the mom in the background, say something like, he's lying dead in a ditch. And it kind of I thought it was like prefacing the end, but it's a faint voice you can hear.
Huh. I didn't pick up on that. Of course you would.
It's right there.
When Sharon Stone is giving her little interview at the end.
That was some of the worst makeup, I think.
Oh my God. And that was the worst overacting I think I've ever seen in my life.
I've seen worse.
Well, it's, and you know, I watched it and I rewound and I watched it again. And I think it was just because of the prosthetic pieces why she had to overact.
It was hanging on her chest there.
Right.
Her
She was
neck
having
fat,
to,
And the
she was having
coloration
to-
of it.
Yeah. She was having to emphasize her face movement so much to make it move. That's why I think she was having to overact so much. Like, man,
But at the same
that
time,
sign.
I feel, again, going back to the realism of that, a mother that had their young child taken away from them like that, you know, most people don't get that closure when their kid goes missing and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, they figure they're dead, but they don't know for sure that they're dead or how they died. And it's like, so I think a mom that was that protective and loved their child that much to find out that their youngest, who was on the right path, was murdered that way because of their old, like, I feel like you would have a breakdown.
She did
and-
snap.
No,
though. Yeah.
I'm not talking about what she was saying. What she was saying was fine. That was,
But
it
I
was
think
just,
like the way that she, like, I think that
It's uncontrollable,
I think
so-
somebody
yeah.
could be like that. Now, I'm not taking away what you're saying. I think that part of that is true, but I don't think she was that far exaggerating.
I think when a lot of critics are, they watch something and I also kind of question if I'm thinking something is overacting, but it's like, that's probably how somebody probably would react depending on the situation, circumstances.
And I'm wondering if that was filmed before or after the rest of the movie. Like, I feel like that stuff would have been filmed first.
yeah.
And if that was the case, they should have probably filmed that stuff last to get her more into the mood. But to me, I feel like that stuff was filmed first because they wanted to get probably Sharon Stone and Bruce Willis. They were two of the biggest names attached to this movie. They probably had them for a short amount of time and they wanted to get their stuff done as quick as possible. But yeah, no, that makeup was fucking horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely didn't use a makeup budget for
I
that
think
movie.
they just asked Austin Power Gold members, like, do you have your fat bastard prosthetics that we can use? Sure.
Gold.
Yeah. Going back to the original or the beginning of the kidnapping when Zach was like, he was so obedient. Like he was trying to help his brother out.
Mhm.
And I thought it was noble of him, but he wasn't known enough or in the know, I should say, of how these people would act. Because for him, it's a different sort of attention that he's kind of, I don't know if I want to say basking in, but he's exploring. And he had so many outs. And Justin Timberlake tried so hard to just get rid of him. Not necessarily get rid of him, but like help him. Like,
Yeah.
I could put you on a bus,
Yeah.
you could put $50 in your pocket and you could go. Like he went into the liquor store and Zach just waited right outside like a little lost puppy. It's like, your parents are looking for you. I know you're trying to save your brother, but you see nothing wrong with the situation. And he was getting in cool with pretty much everybody. And the only person who had like a huge problem with it was, what's her name?
The girl that played Jamie in Face Off.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Angela.
Angela? Yeah. And she was the one who was like, you're fucking kidnapped. And it's like, she tried to go to her mom, but her mom just kind of shooed her away. Like, this one night I try to, fuck your dad and, you can't even give this to me. It's like, when the kid is actually having a problem and the parent is not there for them, that's the issue. That was pretty much the theme of the movie.
I was going to ask you, Justin, talking about that scene with Justin Timberlake when he's just like, if I give you $50 and just have you go on that bus right there and go home or whatever. And then he's just like, well, no, I don't want to get my brother in trouble. What do you think? And I'm not thinking from a movie standpoint. I'm talking like real life. What do you think would have happened if Zach actually went on the bus and left? Do you feel that
I don't
they
think
would
it
have
would,
went after him some more?
I don't think they would have went after him. I think they wouldn't have been safe because they know how Jake is. Jake would not have stopped, but they didn't have any leverage.
Do you think that Justin Timberlake would have been murdered?
I don't think he wasn't a target
No, I'm talking like from
just letting him go.
yeah.
No, Frankie was Johnny's boy. He was like his right hand. And I'm pretty sure as charismatic as Frankie was, because there was a few like, I don't know if I want to say slip ups, but he can spin some words. He's a really good lyricist.
Yeah. Well, what I found interesting, and this is kind of based off of true parts of the story, the amount of witnesses.
Yeah.
And nobody said shit.
I love that they did that, but I think
nobody said shit until it was too late.
Yeah.
Like that lady that saw him get beat up and abducted in the van thought they were
two
just,
people. Yeah.
Thought
The
they were
first
just
two.
kids just messing around. It's like, well, I don't know
Just
many
gonna
kids that would
kick
mess
rabbit.
around that much. I mean, you back in the day would do stuff like that, Justin, but
I did.
just like, I know, I'm sure you did.
We used to kidnap our friends all the time.
Make sure they got home safe.
I had a white Aerostar van, and we used to fucking see our friends walking down the street, throw open the side of the van, and fucking just tackle them and throw them in all the time.
But even so, like me as an adult, and I use that term loosely, if I saw something like that happen, I wouldn't just like brush it to the side. Whether it was fake or not, I'd be one of those people that would
be
stop,
curious.
or I would call the police about it and say, hey, you might want to check up on this. But I mean, I just think how different of an outcome would it have been in the real life story if these
Right.
people actually acted on it.
Yeah. Most of the people who knew about it, because they, like the house party, all the friends and people coming to get high with, and like they knew it, but they didn't sense there was a danger because, again, like maybe how the way that Frankie was to the kid.
And they're kids. Still.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still.
You don't know how serious to take certain things too, because I mean, kids do overindulge in certain things or want to make things more than what it actually is for attention. And again, like the only person who was growing up enough was the whatever her Angela. Thank you. You'll have to tell me that again.
She was always the actress. She was in Face Off with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta.
I think you mentioned that.
I want to take his face.
Nick Cassavetes was in that movie too. He was an actor. He wasn't the director or anything, but he must have had a thing for her to get her to be in this movie. And I don't blame him because she's very attractive.
Zach, the kid. Zach's first time was with two girls.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of ruins your sex life because being a
Can't get any better than that.
being a young, still your brain is still molding to certain things, and that's your first experience. Now you have to pretty much grade everything off of that.
Well, I can't think of the actor's name. He was the one at the end of the movie that went with them but had to go back to the car.
Right.
Because he was crying.
Keith?
Yes. I don't know about his character.
I knew a guy just like him. Like he was a person who I definitely could put a name to.
But I feel like he was kind of a useless character. Like he
was.
could have been, if he wasn't in the movie, that movie wouldn't have been any different.
I couldn't tell his relationship. Like, was he brother of one of the girls or something like that?
Angela's brother.
Yeah,
I think.
he was one of Frankie's friends.
Yeah, he wasn't Angela's brother because he was so concerned about Angela's mom getting it on. It's like, are you gonna suck his dick?
Oh, that's true.
Why would you want to know if your dad is?
And, one of the only other movies I've ever seen him in was Freddy vs. Jason.
Really?
Yeah, and him playing the exact opposite kind of role. Like he was just the straight-laced
Forgot he was.
honor student. Yeah, so see him in a role where he's like the pothead friend. It was kind of like, wow, okay.
The only other movie I remember seeing him in was another one with Emile Hirsch, The Girl Next Door, with Alicia Cuthbert. He played, which is weird because he looks like he got younger from that movie because that was filmed before Alpha Dog.
Think 05, 04, 05, something like that.
But Emile Hirsch looks like he actually grew up and stuff. So I thought that was kind of weird that, the one looks like he's getting younger and the other one looks like he's getting older. But God dang it, I kicked that thing on the floor. So we're going to have some talking in the background here. It's Lonnie's toy.
I really liked the opening, the Somewhere Over the Rainbow opening. I thought it was very beautiful, especially showing the young lives of the actual actors. It's going to play again. But yeah, the young lives of the actual actors, and it does cement something for you because you see these faces, these little boys in these a little bit more grown faces. It's like, man, this was just you at the beginning of the movie. And
well, yeah, it's definitely, it kind of tugs on your heartstrings a little bit because knowing the outcome of the movie, it's just like how innocent they were and how
naive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they had their whole lives ahead of them and it looks like they were making good choices. And
Well, I wouldn't say good, but
Well, I mean,
not so bad.
yeah, but that's actually kind of an idea I always had for a movie too, where I'd get the cast and I was going to have them send me a bunch of their home videos from when they were kids, and I was going to kind of base their characters off of whatever they had sent me.
Yeah.
I can't do it now.
I think this movie is a lot about like the transitioning of life, you know, kind of not necessarily from child to man. In so many words, yes. And I really liked the opening, and that's what I was saying, like this movie got lost on like the opening part. It started off with, and this will also be what I would change too, but like it started off as a documentary style, and it didn't touch back to that to the very end. It pulled me out a little bit. I think it worked, but it didn't work. It could have returned back to that for certain close-up tight ends, but just stringing it from beginning to end was okay. But Sonny True Love, he said something about, you want to know what this whole thing is about? You could say it's about drugs and guns or disaffected youth or whatever you like, but this whole thing is about parenting, and that's what I agree with. It's like the kids, when they seeked out their parents, the only one who was there was Sonny, although he wasn't a upstanding parent. I mean,
Right.
He loved his kid. He gave him that tough love. It was a bit of a like toxicity, but in the other, only parent loved her kid, and she smothered her kid enough to where he wanted to get away. But I think having the support wasn't there. Like Jake, he had a habit, and he couldn't necessarily rely on his dad, and his dad didn't necessarily know what to do with the situation. It's like he was trying to give him money to help him, but it's only hindering him. But then he realizes that it's not going to help in the long run. They weren't necessarily making good choices.
Well, the thing is, it was like he only needed $800
Yeah.
or something. And it's like, obviously from where they're living and his dad and whatnot, $800 was nothing to him.
Yeah, in Southern California, that's like a drop in the bucket.
I was also kind of confused about the overall, because at the very end, Sharon Stone says a few numbers,
Yeah,
but earlier,
$1,200 is
Yeah.
what got him killed. Yeah,
Even so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jake only owed $1,200, but he was willing to kill Zach for $2,500. It's like, you're going to kill the kid for more than what is owed, more than double what's owed.
well, I think it just got to the scenario. Well, it was way over all of their heads,
Yeah.
and it's better to have someone else pick up the
Yeah.
pieces than deal with it.
And I think that's also one of Elvis's downfalls as well. Is like, he was thinking that he was being brought up in the gang, and
Yeah.
he was actually the fall guy. He was supposed to be the one who take the blame for everything if everything went awry.
That's loyalty to a fault.
Yeah. And it seemed like Johnny was trying to make it, you know, by not telling him where the kid is, you know, not telling the family lawyer and his dad and his grandfather and stuff. It's, if only he would have just said something outright when his dad was trying to harsh on him, like, where the fuck is the kid? Like, you know, call it off. He freaked, he froze. He, being that alpha leader position, he was by no means deserving of it. He only was there by rights of utility.
Well, that's what I said. One of my biggest things about it was that character. Like, it wasn't believable to me that these many people would be loyal to him and whatnot. But
You know how you had that friend who lived on the corner who had all the cool systems, but you didn't like him, so you just went over there to play his video games, and
that was me.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's that guy, just with drugs.
Yeah. But, so Lonnie, I'm going to kick this off with you.
Oh, I do want to mention
What
one
the
more.
hell was that?
One more.
Ow. I
One
thought
more
you were opening
thing.
up a pop.
I thought it was really cool, and kind of, the lyrics doesn't work. Eminem's song at the very end says, say goodbye to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, does it reference Jesse James Hollywood? Because it's saying goodbye to Johnny Truelove, who is the Jesse James Hollywood character, the actual guy who ordered this whole thing.
The only thing that song did was stuck in my head the rest of the night after that. Like, say goodbye to Hollywood.
And now it's going to be stuck tonight.
Yep. Lonnie, kick it off with you. You gave it such a low rating. What would you have done differently?
Man,
He said men.
men. Replace all the women with men. Replace the men with hotter men. No, I don't even know where to begin. I think this movie was either made 5 years too late or 10 years too early. I think in that time, in 2006, the world wasn't ready for this movie.
I don't think anybody really knew anything about that. The true events.
It was still happening because I think they got certain rights were shut down because one of the line directors or somebody was attached, or I don't know if I want to say attached, but he had access to Jesse James Hollywood. So he was getting part of the story, but he wasn't feeding the entire thing.
Well, that was
so it was on hold.
Jesse James Hollywood wanted to have an appeal in the court because he felt like he wasn't going to get a fair trial because this movie had come out before his sentence. And he just felt like everybody from seeing this movie automatically was going to say that he was guilty. And I kind of understand
for sure.
And
I think the dude's a piece of shit just because of how, Hirsch played it. So
yeah, well, and I mean, you look at the real Jesse James Hollywood, his pictures, and you just want to punch him. He
He's
just
got
looks
a punchable face. Like
it looks like a dick, but it's like I kind of understand where he's getting at. Like, you're not getting a fair trial because of this movie.
Right.
He's a 15-year-old kid, and definitely how Anton Yelchin played it. And every time I saw that dude, like after this movie, I just felt so bad for him. Like seeing him in the Star Trek, I'm like, oh.
Well,
but then he died.
Yeah, then he gets crushed by his vehicle at home.
Yeah, so I think it was unfortunately made at the wrong time. I think it could have been made a lot later. I think it would have had more of an impact. I think some of the acting choices were poor. I think they could have kept the dialogue the same and maybe just acted a little differently. I think the cast was great. I questioned some of the directorial choices.
At the very end, they did kind of drag out a bit of Zach's, I'm going to go home and change things. I'm going to, I do love my mom and I'm going to do things differently. Like usually when a character in a movie is talking about all the good things they're going to do in their future, it's like, fuck, you're dead.
Right. Exactly. Could have seen more Amber Heard boobs.
Oh, I just see shit.
See Olivia Wilde's for a while.
Oh, yeah.
When do you see hers?
At the very end.
The sex scene at the end.
The lack of sex scene.
Oh, well, yeah.
I like how he's like, suck my dick. She's like, I tried that and it didn't work. That's the thing, too, about Emil Hirsch. It's like...
His ass. Yeah, I know.
Well, he
That's a quarter off that
Alicia
shit.
Cuthbert is like on my list of favorite hottest female actresses out there. And he gets to make out and do all this stuff with her and the girl next door. And Olivia Wilde's... She's not on the top of my list, but she's on my list. And it's like he gets to do stuff with her. And it's like, this kid, like he looks like the everyday guy. And it's like, and he's not a tremendous actor, but it's like, wow, he's definitely, he looks like to me like he could be Jack Black's brother.
I can see that. I can see that. There's the chick that they were telling to dance. I think Justin Timberlake's like, dance, bitch. She was credited as dance bitch girl.
Dance bitch girl.
Yeah.
See, that's the fun thing about when you make a movie and you have a bunch of extras in it. You, as the director, get to name these people that don't have character names. All right, so Lonnie, that's what he would change. Anything you would change?
I would, and
oh, sorry, he's got more.
I would put in more Bernadette Perez, and I'm sure neither of you really know anything about Bernadette Perez. She's credited as Bar Girl. Bernadette Perez is one of the queens of B movies. She's acted in over 100 B movies.
No, she was the one that was Jake's girlfriend, right?
No, she was just in a bar.
Oh, because she was also the bartender. Okay, I thought you said bartender.
No,
bar
just
waitress or
bar
whatever.
girl and bar.
Okay,
but some of the movies she's been in, she was in Slaw, the Saw parody, but they killed people with coleslaw.
Look her up here.
She was in Witchcraft 14, 15, and 16.
Remember her?
Yeah, that's her.
I don't remember her at all.
She is fantastic. She's the modern day scream queen of bad B movies.
I think one of my favorites.
She's in Cuck. She's prostitute number 2. She's in Grip. She's Nil Friend, like MILF, but friend. Yeah. Psycho Sally, Spring Break 83. She's fantastic. I love her to death. So seeing her in this movie made me happy.
That got the .20. What was the other 5?
No, she got the .05 because she was an uncredited extra. But the .20 was
the Justin Timberlake cry.
The Justin Timberlake and
Cry Me a River.
And Zach acting at the end in their green hollow domed.
That was that cry. You're like, I missed that cry from that music video. What was that one? Where they're all in a insane asylum. Insane. Never mind.
I know what you're talking about in sync, but I don't know the music videos as well as you do, apparently.
I watched a lot of pop-up video in my day.
I'm sure you did.
My favorite part of this movie. They're like, "Why'd you take the tape off?" And the guy's like, the 911. He's like, "Because he said he couldn't breathe."
He's just sitting there smoking pot. Like, that's how you knew they were terrible kidnappers, when he's just sitting smoking pot, playing video games with them.
I like the scene when Elvis comes back and he gets tough all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then he's
He
just
manned
like,
up for
he's like,
out of nowhere.
who's sucking whose dick now? It's like, damn. Like, that's when I really was like, okay, this guy means business.
Right. It's like when it comes down to it, like, I think that's just because he's been shit on way too long again.
And I think that he was sober. Like, I think there was so much going on that he wasn't drinking to it. Like, he was just trying to get back on
Johnny's
good graces.
Yeah.
And
he had a mission, and that's what he was trying to earn his respect. He was trying to earn his spot. He was trying to rise, and yeah, he went the wrong route. Again, he didn't see that he was the guy who was supposed to take the blame for everything.
Well, and like, do you really think that their punishment would have been as bad as they're making it sound? Like, just for kidnapping somebody, do you think you're going to get, because they're saying we're going to get life? And I don't really think that that's
Doubtful, not in California.
I mean, like, I feel like, I think Frankie's lawyer was kind of embellishing things, because he's like, oh, you get put away for life. And it's just like, I don't think he really would. Like, I don't know.
For the minimal hypotheticals that they were breaching. Not only that, but I think Johnny misread everything, because he said, like, well, what would hypothetically, what would you do if whatever? And he hung up the call after the guy was like, well, I would dig a hole. And I don't think he was meaning, to kill the kid. He's like, pretty much like, dig a hole because that's for yourself.
Before we go on any further, we need to acknowledge how great of a friend Chucky is. When they all go over to Chucky's house, and he's like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
And he's like, we need to go to the room. He's like, all right, it's my room. It's in the back. And then he's like, what are you guys doing in my room? And they point a gun at him. He's like, fuck you guys. I'm going to the festival.
Yeah. You better be
Fiesta.
on.
You better be gone when I get back from the festival. Come on, Lumpy.
And that random guy that like is in the bath towel and the hair towel that just got out of the shower.
He was
That's like
Gay Lumpy Jaeger.
Yeah. I mean, he took it well with stride. I mean, like, he was a grown-ass man.
Got a gun pointed at him.
And he wasn't even afraid.
Fine, whatever. I'm going to the festival.
You better not be here when I come back.
The one thing about, because after I watched this movie with Michael because he had never seen it. After we watched it, he was talking about the Sean Hattasey guy that played Elvis. He's like, the whole time, he's like, where have I seen? I just saw this guy in something recently.
It's in Dexter.
Well, there's a show that came out in 2016 called Animal Planet. That's about drug dealers and stuff. And Michael's like, he plays a psycho. So we watched a couple episodes after that of that show, and it actually is pretty good. But the one thing about that show and this movie is that if you are involved with drug dealing and you're a guy, apparently it's really easy to get threesomes, because there's like always, these guys are always passed out, sleeping with two naked chicks next to them. I mean, same with the Animal Planet movie. So, I mean, I guess kids, if that's what you want to aspire to be
the best you.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Well, if anybody wants to buy gabapentin for seizures, I got it.
Okay. I was like, what are you talking about? All right, Justin, we're going to be wrapping things up here. Anything you would change?
Just primarily like the documentary style, possibly like Sharon Stone's overacting at the end. Again, I don't know if that was character choice, if she saw something from the actual mom. I didn't actually see the actual dad either, but I heard there was like issues with the Bruce Willis's like, sunspots and stuff. I'm like, but I guess it looks just like it's a true resemblance. But yeah, if they just kind of maybe close certain tight ends as the movie took its turns, especially with returning back to the documentary style.
I can see that.
Because just starting it off with like the young actors and like the home videos, documentary, like it loses all that and then inserts a movie and then closes with it. It works, but I feel like it's missing something.
I could see that. And the one thing about this when I was doing prep for this is there's not many interviews out there with a lot of the cast and stuff about this movie. I like to watch like
if that's
Q&A panels places, but there's not much out there. The only thing I really found was that thing with Emile Hirsch and Justin Timberlake, the unscripted thing where they're interviewing each other.
Right. I wonder if there's legalities behind that because of at the time of release.
There could be, but there was a couple interviews out there with the director, Nick, and I mean, But the thing is, the people that were doing the interviews were very amateur and they sucked at it. So they weren't even asking really good questions. So that could be a possibility, because I think there's a lot of answers to some of the questions we have that could have been answered with these interviews with the cast. And as for me, I mean, there's not much that I would change. I would probably say there could have been a better for Frankie. I think they could have cast somebody probably better than Emil Hirsch for that part. Because I mean, looking at the actual Jesse James Hollywood, I don't know. I don't see many similarities. Like, he at least kind of looked, the real Jesse James Hollywood, he looked more buff and like intimidating. Whereas Emil Hirsch, not so much. But that's probably about one of the only things I would change. But yeah.
Really? This is the dude he was trying to look like?
Oh yeah, you're looking him up?
One, this guy looks like an uber douchebag.
Crew, that is correct. He is.
And he looks nothing like him at all. This dude looks like an Abercrombie model who has got hit with a fucking frying pan to the forehead.
Well, I mean, to be fair, too, if you look at Nick and Ben, was it? The actual people that were, Ben Markowitz and Nick, they look nothing like Anton and Ben Foster. I'm just saying that the real Jesse James Hollywood, he looks intimidating. This Emil, no offense to him, but he does not. So, well, boys, that is episode 5. We reviewed Alpha Dog. Lonnie, you got next episode. What movie are we reviewing?
We're gonna watch the Stephen King classic Stand By Me.
Man,
starring Corey Feldman, River Phoenix,
and all them,
yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie, so this will be fun to watch that.
I love that movie.
It sounds like it. All right. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Again, we've got this podcast. We've got our regular Boundless PodTrap podcast that is released every other week.
You can buy our merch at Zazzle.com.
It's not ready. Hopefully by then it will be. All right. Thank you again for listening. We hope you enjoy it. We enjoy it. And we will see you next week for the regular Boundless PodTrap podcast. Good night, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.